Good afternoon. Welcome back to the channel. I am Just Meek on deck, and today we will be listening to a broadcast from swrc.com with the author Johnathan Cahn in his book, The Josiah Manifesto. And he will be delving into things that was done by the ancient kings Josiah and Jehu, and things that Trump has done in our day, and how all of that somehow seems to line up very mysteriously. Is it God's will? Is this something that was ordained to take place during the stream of time? Well, without further ado, let's delve into part one. Thanks for tuning in.
Johnathan Cahn is here for the next 4 days to take us on the prophetic journey that is revealed inside his new book. Here's our host, Dr. Larry Spargimino and Johnathan Cahn.
Johnathan, it's so wonderful to have you back on the show. I always love these programs with you. They're long, but they're so exciting. I tingle all over.
I'm glad to be part of the tingling. It's always a joy to be with you, Larry, from the Harbinger, I believe, from the very beginning. And what I'm blessed with Southwest Radio Church also is that, as they're so into the Word, that you give the time, to open up this thing. So it's always a joy to be with you. Sometimes I might speak for a little bit, but this is where we can get into at least some more that other people may not get.
Yes, and we're going to offer some materials we'll mention that later on that no one else or only a few ministry has, but we'll talk about that. So as we start, Johnathan, what is the Josiah Manifesto going to reveal?
Well, this is going to be a prophetic journey. I mean, more than any other thing I've ever written, where we're going to be opening up really mystery after mystery after mystery of what's all going to come together. Which is going to actually give a revelation that I believe the Lord has for this hour and for the days to come and for the end times. And the thing is that, is America heading for judgment, first of all? Secondly, has the Lord given us a last chance? We're going to open up mysteries that have been unfolding in our lives. We may not have realized it, but was the hand of God. And it's ultimately all going to lead to a blueprint, or that's what it says, manifesto, a blueprint, a guide for how to stand, how to survive, how to prevail, and how to move forward in this hour. And the subtitle is the Josiah Manifesto, the ancient mystery and guide for the end time. So it's going to be like mystery after mystery, and Larry, it's going to be that many of the mysteries that have been opened, that have been kind of revealed, like from the Harbinger to the return of the gods to the oracle to the paradigm, are kind of coming home, coming for a landing in the Josiah Manifesto.
Wow. Yeah, that's exciting. That's why I think, you get into a lot of this stuff in a way that you have some special gifts. No one else, as far as I know, has those gifts. But they're so exciting. They're not gloomy. They encourage us, and they provide us with hope. And praise the Lord for that. Well, now, Johnathan, in the Josiah Manifesto, you take us on a prophetic journey to uncover mysteries that, from an even greater mystery in Revelation, it begins on an island. Wow. Tell us about that.
Yeah. And we won't be able to get into much, but just to let you, and I don't often talk about this, but you'll know at the beginning, it begins, the first part is called the Island of Mysteries, and there's all sorts of things that set the stage for the mysteries that have been affecting America, everything else. And it actually begins with, I won't go into it, but it's in everything, but an object that I gave to Fidel Castro on the island of Cuba. Wow. And the object and a word, I gave him a piece of paper with a word, was a prophetic word. The object and the prophetic word are part of a mystery from God that actually determined, or it's from the Bible, actually determined the exact time that his reign would end. And not only the year, but the week, but the day and the hour that the reign of Fidel Castro would end. And it's all linked to a mystery in the Bible that actually is the mystery that begins the Josiah Manifesto that has touched America, touched our lives, has altered our lives, and is all part of what we're going to start unfolding. So that's a kind of a little taste.
Well, what was his reaction to that? I mean, did he get angry at you? Did he begin to shake and weep or repent?
No. Actually, he said a word after thanking me. I don't think he realized the ramifications of it. When I gave it to him, because it is an object. I'll give a little hint. One of the things I gave him was a shofar that is linked to the Jubilee, and that actually gave the exact timing of when his reign would come to an end. I mean, to the hour. Years later, to the hour.
Wow. Well, Johnathan, you've uncovered some stunning mysteries behind the coming of the plague to America. Give us a little taste of that.
Yeah, actually, the Bible gives a real clue with this. I mean, gives principles that are behind this, and people miss this, and it's so important, and the reality of God. When abortion first entered America, it actually came before Roe versus Wade, abortion on demand, and it came to the continent of America through one place. It came through New York, and New York became the capital of abortion. It became the spreader of abortion. It led to Roe versus Wade, but it first entered in the year 1970, and it entered actually when the law came up in the New York Assembly to begin. This is the beginning of abortion in America. Literally, and the date was January 20th, 1970. Now, we opened the door for a form of death. This is abortion, death. Now, years later, 50 years later, in 2020, another form of death comes to America, and it comes in the form of the plague. It comes 50 years after the first, and it comes on the day that patient zero was confirmed having the plague coming to America. They had headlines all over America. Patient zero was January 20th, 2020. It was 50 years to the exact date. So here's one death. We began one death. Death came back to us 50 years to the exact day.
Wow, that's fascinating. Well, our guest for this show is Johnathan Cahn. He's been called the prophetic voice of this generation, and I believe Johnathan Cahn is indeed the prophetic voice of this generation. We are offering his latest book, the Josiah Manifesto, the Ancient Mystery and Guide for the End Times. Plus, we are making available the Josiah Manifesto Uncensored DVD album, which Johnathan Cahn makes available to only a few ministries like ours, 1-800-652-1144. Now, Johnathan, tell us about the Manifesto Uncensored DVD album. You always have one of these, and this is not something on Amazon. You can't get it any place else, but you can get it through us. So tell us a little bit about what they can expect on this.
Yeah, this literally is uncensored. In other words, so it's on there. You'll get the mysteries, but you'll get what is I could not even put in the book, and it's actually things in there that are nowhere else, literally on Earth. This is not available anywhere except, just a few places. And one of them is this ministry right now. So you're going to see it. You're not just going to hear it. You're going to see the mysteries unfold. You're going to see. I'm going to be revealing totally other mysteries that I could not put into the book. And it's 8 one-hour DVDs. So you can show it to people, you can give it to people, but it's going to be something so exclusive that it's really literally nowhere else on Earth.
Well, I know when you do your uncensored thing, that's really, in fact, from what I hear and what I see, this is, your stuff is earth-shaking, but this is a double rumble, so to speak. This is tremendous, and I know you call it uncensored, and you're making it available through us. 1-800-652-1144. Now, Johnathan, there was an ancient word appointed to be proclaimed just before America went down the path of abortion. What was that ancient word?
Yeah, it actually was literally within days of when the entrance of abortion, when I just told you that, January 20th. And you know what the word was? It's the appointed word that is from ages past, is to be read and proclaimed in the synagogues all over the world, and certainly in New York where there are many Jewish people, so where abortion really made its entrance. So what was the word? You know what the word was? The word was God saying that every baby that opens the womb is holy to me, belongs to me. That every new life that opened, literally about the womb, literally that the baby was the law of the opening of the womb. God says it's sacred, and it's like a warning: don't touch it. And then look what we did. It was all there in those just before we did it.
This Planned Parenthood group and these pro-abortion people, they're violent, like Jane's Revenge, and breaking windows and threatening people and beating people up. I mean, this is the sting. This is the kiss of death. Babies are human beings, and we take their lives. We're so cavalier with the unborn. I think that's a turn in America when we really went downhill fast. And now, we're talking about euthanasia, death with dignity, on and on and on. It all started with abortion, and they're still fighting. They still claim it's health care. Being pregnant is not sick, right? I mean, it's not a disease. You don't need health care. So, wow, that is amazing. But everyone remembers the time that COVID came on America when everything shut down and their lives changed. Was that part of the mystery as well?
One of the things that you kind of allude to it, the Bible's very clear about this. If you take the life of children, there's going to be a price to that. When Israel did it, Jeremiah said, you do this, death is coming back, and it's going to be answered as you did to the children, it's going to come back. So we did this to the children beginning 1970, and then 50 years later, the death comes back. And the thing is, you remember the day when everything shut down. It was like the president went on the air that night, and he gave this whole speech to the nation. That was the day that that America was quarantined. From Europe was cut off from America. Everything closed down. The stock market crashed, and we went into a bear market. Everything. Even the media called it the day that changed everything. Now that was March 11th, and remember, it was in the middle of March 11th, 2020. That's when the plague fully fell on America. Well, what happens if you go back 50 years? The thing is, it brings you to March 11th, 1970. Do you know what? Larry? The day that abortion became legal in America on demand was March 11th, 2020. So here again, the entrance of abortion, then you have the entrance of the plague. Now, actually, abortion becomes legal. The day we first start killing children is the day that the plague came onto America in fullness, not only 50 years, but to the exact day.
Wow. There are a couple of other things that we want to get into, but what about the ancient Valley of Hinnom? What does that have to do with New York?
Well, in the Bible, where they were killing the children when they were offering them up as sacrifices, it was the Valley of Hinnom more than any other place. That's where Jeremiah, that's when he broke that jar and said that judgment is coming, overlooking the Valley of Hinnom, because that's what he says. You killed the children, well, the blood is going to be repaid, by life to life. Well, the question here is that, when the plague came to America, where did it go? Well, it actually specifically, more than any other place, it focused on New York. Well, interesting. Do you know what America's Valley of Hinnom is? It's New York. More children have been killed in New York than any other place. It is the capital of abortion. Plus, it was the entranceway, and it was the place that spread abortion to America. So here, as we took life, now it comes back, and notice, abortion, is a sin of an older generation against the young generation. Well, when the plague came, it spared the children, but it struck particularly the older generation, the generation that had killed more babies than any other generation in history. So it actually went to New York, and the other thing about it is New York reached the threshold when, in the beginning of, on April 10th, when it crossed the threshold and more people were being struck by COVID than in any other nation were in New York. Don't forget, more in New York than any other nation. April 10th. Well, you know what? Larry? The day that New York legalized abortion was April 10th, 1970. It was 50 years again to the exact date.
Wow. Well, you probably know my home city is New York City, and
oh wow,
yeah,
okay. I live right outside.
Okay, New Jersey, yeah, but yeah. Down through the years, New York has gotten so bad. When I was a kid, we could go in Central Park. You could take a walk in Central Park in the nighttime, and you were still safe. You could listen to the owl in some of the trees, and now there's so much crime, and so much of the crime is insane. These sucker punching of the elderly, rape in the elevator, on and on and on. The curse is there. That poor city. There are some good people left there, but wow, it's a bad place.
Well, that's, it's amazing because New York, so much has come out of New York. And when you look, where were the harbingers? Most of them were New York. For those who are the harbingers. Where did 9/11 happen? New York.
Yeah.
Well, abortion, New York. The altering of gender began, the big movement, New York. So there's a reason for this.
Wow. Well, Johnathan, what about the mystery of the Eastern Gate? You write about that. Tell us about that.
Well, that goes along with this, Larry, and that is that when the prophet Jeremiah gave his prophecy and broke the jar that we just spoke of about the Valley of Hinnom and the children who were killed, he did it by the gate, by the potter's gate. And the thing is that the gate in the Bible, in other words, they were killing their children by the gate, and the gate is also in the Bible linked to judgment. When the enemy comes, when judgment comes, it says it comes to the gate. It appears at the gate. Well, now that leads us to the question: what is the gate of America? Well, the gate of America, what would that be? Well, the thing is, the gate of America is clearly New York. So here is a biblical mystery and principle, and that is that sin is linked to the gate, the killing of children is linked to the gate. Well, where have we killed more children? At the gate, at New York, more than any other. And judgment comes to the gate. So the question is, could COVID, because the plague came to New York more than any other place, but a gate is a place not just that something comes to, or judgment, but that you come through. So could the plague have actually come through New York? In other words, could New York have actually spread the plague to America? And the amazing thing is, this is something that we could not have known until recently, because they did genetic DNA studies of the virus, and you know what they found, Larry? They found that the genetic code, or the markers of the virus, the majority of them pointed to New York, to the gate. They have the markers of New York on them. And the thing is, so abortion, now it wasn't just that abortion came to New York as well. New York was the gateway for America of abortion. Do you know, Larry, that in those 3 years from 1970 until Roe versus Wade, do you know the majority of abortions in America, all that came through New York? Literally, the majority, over 50%, were performed in New York. And when they looked at the plague, the majority of people who were struck by COVID had the genetic markers of New York, the same exact way. So the markers pointed to the gate through which the death of abortion came to America. And so the plague, the markers pointed to the same gate of the nation's sin. It's amazing.
Well, we're running out of time, but there's a question regarding Abraham Lincoln. In the book, you ask a question that connects Abraham Lincoln, the prophet Jeremiah, and COVID-19. What was the question, and what's the answer?
Well, the principle is this. And by the way, what's the thing about the 50 years? What's the mystery behind that? It's the Jubilee. On the Jubilee, everything gets reversed. Whatever you did gets undone. So what you did, it comes back at you. So if you bring death, death is coming. If you took life, life is taken. So that's why. But the thing is that the principle is that in the Bible, in Jeremiah, it said that every child that you killed, it's going to come back to you. Abraham Lincoln made a famous speech, and he said that every drop of blood that that was shed through slavery is going to be repaid by the sword of the Civil War. So the big question is, could it be that the numbers, what about the numbers of those who died from COVID? And it's not saying that they're a judge, it's saying the nation is a judgment. Could it match the numbers of abortion? And the thing is, when you look at that 3-year window from when abortion came to America until Roe versus Wade, how many babies were killed? 1.3 million. When you look at the 3-year window of the plague, starting exactly 50 years later, how many people died of the plague? 1.3 million, the exact same number.
Jonathan, you did tell us about the mystery of the Eastern Gate. What is the mystery of the Western Gate?
Well, here's the thing. Does America have another gate? And the other thing is, that it turns out that when abortion came to the continent, in 1970, abortion on demand, it came, as I said, through New York more than any other place, through the Eastern Gate. But there was one other state on the continent that was the gateway for abortion, and it was Washington State. It was the western entrance. So you have two gates with abortion. Now what happens when you go 50 years later? When you go 50 years later, you find that the same gate through which abortion entered, one death entered through the Eastern Gate. So the plague entered through the same gate, and just as we saw that as the majority of abortions came through New York in America in those 3 years, so the majority of people who were struck by the plague, it came through the same Eastern Gate. But what about the Western Gate? If that's where the abortion came through, is it possible that there's a link to the plague? And the answer is yes. In fact, the Washington State, through which the death that called abortion came to America, was the other gateway through which the death of the plague came to America. In fact, Larry, when they identified I mentioned that first case, the first official case of the plague, of the pandemic, of COVID, coming to America, came through patient 0 in Seattle, Washington State. Wow. Washington State was actually the first gateway. And so you got the Eastern Gate, now you have the Western Gate, and not only that, but the day that the death came to the Western Gate, and when it came to America, was the same day that abortion made its first entrance in the Eastern Gate 50 years before. So it's the place, it's the exact date, and Larry, when they did studies about the DNA of the genetic code of the virus, what they found out is in many places across America, about 30% of the cases came from the Western Gate. So about 65% came from the Eastern Gate, about 30% in many cases came from the Western Gate. So if you were struck by COVID, if you got COVID, the markers were 95%, it was going to either point to the Eastern Gate or had the markers of the Western Gate, the two gates from which America's evil, America's sin happened exactly 50 years before.
Well, Jonathan, can you tell us a little bit about why all these connections and the mysteries behind them?
Well, this goes, I just mentioned it, but it's actually, there's so much. Think about, because this is the mystery of the Jubilee. When I mentioned about Fidel Castro, and the end of his reign was linked to the exact day of the Jubilee. And the thing is that, because the Jubilee, we think it's positive. Well, it is positive. If you lost your land, you get it back. But if you took somebody's land, it's taken from you. So it's also the year of restitution. The Jubilee gives and takes away. So if you took life, America took life in 1970. So when the Jubilee, 2020 was the Jubilee of abortion in America. So the Jubilee, what you took is taken from you. We took life, now life is taken from us. The Jubilee reverses what was done. So everything we did to begin to bring death to the children, now it comes back as a plague against not the young, but the old. So the mystery is the mystery of the Jubilee, and that's why you had all these dates happening not only the same year, 1970, 2020 is the Jubilee, but to the exact date. So this is the Jubilee, which is a warning, and by the way, Larry, this is just the beginning of the mystery. This is going to keep going, and it's going to go up to where we are right now. But it's amazing. You want to see how precise the laws of God are? Just look at the Jubilee. It says that, we'll go forward with it.
Well, Jonathan, there's so much more to cover, but we're out of time. We're looking forward to having you back. And friends, please be sure to return for our next broadcast. Johnathan Cahn and I will be speaking about his latest book, the Josiah Manifesto. And don't forget to ask for the Josiah Manifesto Uncensored DVD album. That only goes out to a few ministries. Call for your own copy, 1-800-652-1144.
We have much more from Johnathan Cahn coming up all this week here on Watchmen on the Wall. Johnathan Cahn's brand new book and DVD series, The Josiah Manifesto, is now available. The Josiah Manifesto will take you on a prophetic journey from a Caribbean island to Washington, D.C., to the ancient valley of Hinnon, to the Supreme Court, to a desert mountain, to an ancient Middle Eastern temple of the gates of America, to uncover an ancient puzzle of stunning mysteries that lie behind the events of recent times that have altered our lives. The Josiah Manifesto, the ancient mystery and guide for the end times by Johnathan Cahn, is a book and DVD series you will want for you, your family, and your church. Order today by calling 1-800-652-1144.
Thanks for tuning in today. We shall finish up with part 2 in the following days and part 3. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you found this fascinating and it piqued your interest in regards to end times events and where we are in the stream of time, seeing that we are in the last days. All right, my friends, until the next time, be blessed.